People always ask me why he was so angry at producers, and I strongly feel that one of his ways of creating creativity, one of his ways of getting the passion that he needed to work, was to create an enemy, a nemesis. And his nemesis was always the producers. And if he had something to fight, it created the same kind of adrenaline for fighting as it did for making films. Be a buffer between the studios and Sam, and really that's what the role I learned to play. The crew and the cast were always very fond of him, very loyal. In fact, he created a repertory company of crew members and of actors like Ben Johnson, Warren Oates, Bo Hopkins. Even Ali did 2 films with him. Chris did 2 or 3. Coburn. Everybody was part of the Peckinpah repertory company, and everybody, even though they went through a lot of turmoil and a lot of difficulty with him, and he expected people to work for them 24-hour, 26-hour days, and he had fired all of them, and I was the only one left that he hadn't met. So anyway, I came in, it was around 4 o'clock, and he handed me a script that was covered with the worst handwriting ever, and he said, type that. And it was the rape scene from Straw Dogs, and maybe I could understand his mind. I definitely couldn't understand his writing, because by the time 11 o'clock came by, I had finished it, and he asked me if I'd like to work for him, and really that's how it started. And the picture ended, and he was immediately called to do Junior Bonner. I thought that was the end of my experience with him. But apparently the working relationship worked, because within a week I got a call asking me to come to America. And really that's what changed my life, because I'd been living in England all my life, and now all of a sudden I was in America making films, and it was the beginning of a 8-year relationship with Sam. I worked on Junior Bonner, learnt very quickly what it was like to work with horses and cattle, and I'd never experienced anything like that before. On The Getaway, Steve McQueen was the producer, so Sam was tied into Steve's deal. Steve, as his second film with Sam, knew Sam very well and knew the way he worked, and they had a very good working relationship. I remember once Ali came on the scene with Steve. They get out of the car and they have that big argument. Sam told Steve to actually hit her, and he really did hit her, and Ali just burst into tears. But the performance that came out of her was really spectacular, even though it was done in a rather cruel way. Pat Garrett was a tough film to make, because Pat Garrett was shot in Durango, and everybody got sick. Dylan got sick, Christopherson got sick, James Coburn got sick. And one of the things I used to do for Sam, because it used to cost him a lot of money, because he drank a lot, he took a lot of B vitamin shots, and every morning I used to give him his shots. But because everybody got sick, I was giving everybody shots, so I saw the bottoms of some of the most famous actors in the world on a daily basis. And I became the sort of the nursemaid, as well as the assistant director, as well as the continuity person, because as people started getting sick, I took over their roles. Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia was maybe the film that showed Sam at his most vulnerable, because I think the character that Warren Oates played was Sam, and I think Warren knew that he was playing him. He was the adventurer, the person that would do anything beyond the comprehension of any other person. And Sam had rules and regulations and guidelines for his life that nobody else had, and he lived under a different philosophy than most people. My book was not one of his best films. He did it, I think he did it for the money. He hired about 8 or 10 different karate experts and expected everybody to make some kind of a cohesive movie. And when you have everybody that has different ways of doing things, like, for instance, the karate experts, and everybody having their ego, it was almost a physical impossibility to make a film that made any sense.
Cut. Can I clear cameras here, please?
Killer Elite, unfortunately, was when Sam went from one poison to another poison. He went from alcohol to cocaine. And with alcohol, at least, if you had an argument with Sam at night when he was drunk, at least in the morning he was sober and penitent. With cocaine, the anger just gets exacerbated, and it was very difficult to work with him.
Oh, he shot at it. Got his part of it. We don't have the cut. Jimmy and,
One of the funny moments on the film was we were shooting on the mothball fleet in the dry dock, and in the background there was a very large boat that was the backdrop of the scene. On the 5th day, the boat was gone, and we hadn't finished shooting, and Sam said to Frank Kowalski, what kind of a match is this? And Frank thought for a second. He said, well, it's a good match. It's not a great match, but it's a good match, because we were shooting with just sky where once had been a giant boat. The last film I did with him was Convoy, which was the film that I was finally fired off and never came back. It was also a difficult film for Sam because it went way over budget. Nobody really knew what the script was about, and one of the things that I was asked to do was every night, every one of the actors came in and gave me different rewrites for the screenplay, and I had to combine everybody's thoughts and ideas. It lacked in cohesiveness as far as a story is concerned. And I was just about ready after 5 years of disappointment that we were no longer working together, that it was all over. I was just about ready to sit down and talk to him, and the bastard died on me, and I'll never forgive him for that.